Hello there, welcome back to my channel, Janet's English Class. Today I have something very special to share with you. You are going to be listening to my newest episode on Janet's Writing Podcast, on how to write good setting descriptions, what oxymorons are and how to use them, and also how to edit your writing. Alright, so before we get started, I would like to mention that you can access the podcast transcript on Janet's English courses by clicking on the latest post. Now, let's get started. Hello there, welcome back to another episode on Janet's Writing Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit longer because it's going to consist of 3 lessons. A guide to writing good setting descriptions, learning about what oxymorons are, and how to edit your writing. Before we get started to today's episode, I would like to mention that I have created a podcast transcript for this video, and you can access it by going to my YouTube channel, Janet's English Class, then click on one of the links in the banner that says Janet's English Courses. There, you can earn access to all of the transcripts of my podcast episodes and YouTube videos. Alright, let's get started with today's lesson. Today, we're going to start off with setting descriptions first. So for starters, a setting description is a description of a scene at a part of a story. But we are only going to focus on setting descriptions written as the first scene of the story today. So what exactly do you need in a setting description? Things like imagery, the 5 senses, and emotion, etc. These are optional, but it is most effective if you use all of these in your writing to create a clearer picture for your readers. Let's talk about using imagery. There are 5 main types of imagery: auditory, meaning sound; tactile, meaning texture; gustatory, meaning taste; olfactory, meaning smell; and lastly, visual, meaning the things you can see. Using these 5 imagery elements is incredibly important when you're writing a setting description because it makes your character's surroundings more clear to the reader and adds on to the emotion you're trying to create. Have you noticed that the imagery elements are the same with the 5 senses? Hear, touch, taste, smell, and see? You choose how you want to think about them. And on to emotion. Picking the right emotion for your setting is important. Are you going for a somber, gloomy atmosphere or a more cheerful, bright one? The choice of words and the style of language will differ depending on the type of emotion you want your readers to feel. Now, I'm going to give you a model description from J.K. Rowling's novel, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This scene is when Harry sees Hogwarts for the first time, and fleets of little boats moved off all at once, gliding across the lake, which was as smooth as glass. Everyone was silent, staring at the great castle overhead. It towered over them as they sailed nearer and nearer to the cliff on which it stood. Now for the analysis. J.K. Rowling has implemented many techniques in this description, such as a simile, as smooth as glass, to describe the lake. What makes this setting description so special? The perspective and angle of the description tells us that Hogwarts is vast and gigantic compared to the students, which makes us picture the setting easier in our minds. It was written in third person effectively by describing the scale of the castle and the silence among the students. So you might be thinking, so what are some tips I can use when writing a setting description? Well, I'm going to give them to you right now. So firstly, add in some sensory details. They paint a vivid picture of what you are trying to describe. Secondly, try to show, don't tell. Rather than listing off all the things in the setting, show the reader what it is. If you're writing about the weather changing, avoid saying it literally. Describing the changes is better because it lets the reader sink into your thoughts better. Thirdly, let's keep it simple. So keeping your writing simple is something me myself struggle with sometimes because my task may be write a description of a setting in a book, and I end up with 3-page piece of writing. Remember to keep it simple. Focus on the details, give a balanced vocabulary and description, and describe the setting in little words. And that's our first section on setting descriptions finished. Now, let's move on to oxymorons. Let's get to know what they are first. Oxymoron is a figure of speech that includes a phrase or sentence that seems contradictory in terms of the conjunction. I'll show you what I mean. An example of some oxymorons would be phrases like deafening silence, old news, original copy, or clearly confused, etc. Oxymorons are useful because they can support a light-hearted mood or tone and even empathize conflict. Putting in oxymorons in your writing adds a dramatic effect to it, therefore makes the reader laugh. Take a look at this example from one of Shakespeare's most famous plays, Romeo and Juliet. Oh, brawling love, oh, loving hate. Shakespeare's use of oxymorons here describes the out-of-sort feelings Romeo has for Juliet. And the line, oh, loving hate, describes how love and hate can exist simultaneously. Moreover, this entire line spoken by Romeo expresses his uncontrollable obsession over Juliet. And that's our oxymoron section finished. Now, lastly, I am going to talk about some tips to edit your writing effectively. Firstly is to print your writing out. Reading through your work on paper is much easier than reading from a bright computer screen, right? It helps you find mistakes easier, also allowing you to write and make notes on the paper. To be honest, I find this very helpful when I edit my work. Secondly, remember to take breaks between editing sessions. Editing your writing for 2 hours straight is very tiring, so I suggest taking a break when you feel like doing so. Getting some rest every 30 minutes helps with your thinking. Yet your mind can refresh, collecting in more ideas, also avoiding dizziness. Thirdly is to read aloud. Reading aloud your work helps you to find errors in your writing easier because you are saying by word what you have written down, allowing yourself to point out mistakes when you feel like something you said isn't right. Trust me, it works. Fourthly, is to ask someone to read your work and give their opinion. Your work is aimed for your readers, so finding a person and asking them to read your work and to give comments is the best way to know where to improve, and also where you did well. Knowing another person's thoughts on your piece of writing allows you to develop your writing even more. And there we have it. Today you learned how to write good setting descriptions, what oxymorons are, and why they're useful. Also some tips on how you can take your writing editing to the next level. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you check out some of my other episodes on my podcast. Interested in learning more and more English? Check out my YouTube channel, Janet's English Class. There, discover a brand new world of English learning and also get some writing tips along the way. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye! Alright, and that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Please remember to subscribe, turn on notification bell, and like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!